And my friends, we have to defend ourselves also against lies and against vilification. Throughout history, throughout our history, the slanders against the Jewish people always preceded physical attacks against us. In fact, they were used to justify those attacks. The Jews were called the well poisoners of mankind, the fomenters of instability, the source of all evil under the sun. Unfortunately, as in the case of the physical attacks, these libelous attacks against the Jews did not stop with the creation of the State of Israel. It's true that for a time, overt anti-Semitism was held in check by the shame and the shock of the Holocaust, but only for a time. In recent decades, the hatred of the Jews has reemerged with increasing force, but with an insidious twist. It is not merely directed at the Jewish people. It's increasingly directed at the Jewish state. And in its most pernicious form, it argues that if only Israel did not exist, many of the world's problems would go away. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean that Israel is above criticism. Of course not. Israel, like any democracy, has its imperfections, but we strive to correct them through open debate and through scrutiny. Israel has independent courts, the rule of law, a free press, and a vigorous parliamentary debate. Believe me, it's very vigorous. Well, you've just gone through a week of healthcare voting. In Israel, every week is healthcare week. It doesn't stop. And I know that in this city, members of Congress refer to each other as my distinguished colleague from Wisconsin, the distinguished senator from California. In Israel, members of Knesset don't speak of their distinguished colleagues from Beersheba or Kiryat Shmona. We say, well, you don't want to know what we say. Because in Israel, self-criticism is a way of life, and we also accept that criticism is part and parcel of the conduct of international affairs. But Israel should be judged by the same standards applied to other nations and to other democracies. Sometimes I think there's a triple standard. One standard for the dictatorships, a second standard for the democracies, and a third standard is a standard for Israel. We should be judged by one standard, and allegations made against the state of Israel must be grounded in fact. One allegation that is not grounded in fact is the attempt to describe the Jews as foreign colonialists in their own homeland. This is one of the great lies of modern times. In my office, I have a signet ring that was loaned to me by Israel's Department of Antiquities. This ring was found right next to the Western Wall, but it dates back 2,800 years ago, 200 years after King David declared Jerusalem as our people's capital. Now, this ring is a seal of a Jewish official, and his name is inscribed on it, in Hebrew. The name is Netanyahu. Netanyahu ben Yoash. Now that's my last name. My first name, Benjamin, dates back 1,000 years earlier to Benjamin, the son of Jacob. One of Benjamin's brothers was named Shimon, which also happens to be the name of my good friend Shimon Peres, the president of Israel. You see, nearly 4,000 years ago, Benjamin, Shimon, and their 10 brothers roamed the hills of Judea. Ladies and gentlemen, the connection between the Jewish people and the land of Israel cannot be denied. The connection between the Jewish people and Jerusalem cannot be denied. The Jewish people were building Jerusalem 3,000 years ago, and the Jewish people are building Jerusalem today. Jerusalem is not a settlement, it's our capital. Thank you. In Jerusalem, my government has maintained Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you. In Jerusalem, my government has maintained the policies of every single Israeli government since 1967, including those led by Golda Meir, Menachem Begin, and Yitzhak Rabin. Today, nearly 250,000 Jews, that's almost half the city's Jewish population, live in neighborhoods that are just beyond the 1949 armistice lines. All these neighborhoods are within 5 minutes from the Knesset. They are an integral and inextricable part of modern Jerusalem. Everyone knows, everyone, Americans, Europeans, Israelis certainly, Palestinians, everyone knows that these neighborhoods will be part of Israel in any peace settlement. And therefore, building in them in no way precludes the possibility of a two-state solution. And I want to say one more thing about our policies in Jerusalem. You know, nothing is rarer in the Middle East than tolerance for the belief of others. But it's only been under Israeli sovereignty in Jerusalem that religious freedom for all faiths has been guaranteed, and we shall continue to guarantee that religious freedom for everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, while we cherish our homeland, we also recognize that Palestinians live there as well. We don't want to govern them. We don't want to rule them. We want them as our neighbors, living freely in security, dignity, and peace. Yet Israel is unjustly accused of not wanting peace with the Palestinians. Nothing could be further from the truth.